Well, welcome everybody. I'm super excited. We have a really great topic to go through today. We're going to dive into journeys and specifically introduce email for OneSignal journeys. As a little bit of an introduction, I'm Julia Poppy. I am a product marketing manager here at OneSignal, and today's agenda involves covering some messaging trends we've been seeing, some guiding questions to help you get started with journeys, some quick start templates for cross-channel journeys. Then we're actually going to build a journey together live in the product. Then to wrap up, I'm going to give you guys some sneak peeks of what's coming down the pike for journeys, and then leave some time for Q&A at the end. So I want to start with some messaging trends that kind of set the scene for journeys. You know, it all started with a single channel. It used to be that most businesses would have just one channel, one end-all be-all channel that they use to reach their customers, typically just email or just push, and they would send all of their messages just on that channel. Of course, that can come with some issues. You know, specifically, if someone unsubscribes from that channel, then you're kind of left without a means of reaching them. Also, we just know that there's no kind of silver bullet channel that reaches 100% of users effectively, so it doesn't give you the best odds at success. And now in 2022, increasingly customers are wanting and expecting a seamless cross-channel experience. But what does that actually mean or look like? Well, it involves tailoring your messaging to how customers use technology today. So specifically, we know that people go across devices and platforms multiple times throughout the day. And so you can foster a really seamless feeling customer experience if you match your messaging with that. So if you use multiple channels that travel across devices and platforms with your customers. And the great news is also that cross-channel messaging is proven to be very effective. So it can boost everything from sessions to purchases to retention. I kind of like to think of it as diversifying your messaging portfolio so you're not over investing in a single channel, and it'll leave you in a better position. But often when folks try and get started with a cross-channel approach, they do it pretty manually. So creating a bunch of individual campaigns, trying to sequence them manually. Speaking from my own experience, having tried to do this, it can just lead to a lot of manual work. It can be hard to QA test. And frankly, it can just discourage you from going cross-channel, which is why I'm really excited to talk about email for cross-channel journeys. So now with OneSignal Journeys, you can easily create an automated messaging experience that spans email and push. No code required. I want to emphasize that. I am not a technical user, and I absolutely love using Journeys. And now you're able to combine the power of push, which you know is a mobile native channel that's really great for reaching your mobile users, with the power of email, which remains, you know, a dominant channel and also ties across devices. You know, I check my email on my phone, my work computer, my personal computer. It really goes wherever you go. And so when you combine them together, you're able to foster this seamless cross-channel experience for your customers. And so that's really what we're going to dive into today, how you can create powerful cross-channel journeys with OneSignal. Before we dive into some specific use cases, I want to kind of cover a framework I like to use for planning a journey. So I recommend starting by identifying a key business, team, or department objective. So this could be things like activation, retention, purchases. So think about what is your KPI or North Star metric for this quarter or this year. And then you want to think about a phase of the customer lifecycle that drives that objective. So if activation is your KPI, then maybe onboarding is a really key part of the customer lifecycle. And then I would recommend breaking that phase into a bite-sized chunk that's more manageable. So if you're doing, you know, an onboarding journey, rather than trying to cover, you know, the first 30 days, maybe just think about the first week or first few days. And then define a goal for that section. So think about what you want customers to do and how you want to guide them. So if it's onboarding, it could be something as simple as completing their profile or getting them to use a key feature or signing up for a free trial. And then you want to design a targeted cross-channel sequence that guides users toward that goal. So what that means is you want to think about how you can create a targeted segment and combine email and push to foster this seamless, relevant cross-channel experience. So that being said, I wanted to cover some kind of quick start templates to hopefully spark some ideas for how you could use journeys. First is onboarding. So the goal with onboarding is to turn new signups into active users. And one method of doing that is helping users get the most out of your product. So that would, in terms of a journey, that would look like targeting newly subscribed users and then creating a sequence that nudges users towards your activation goal. So however you define activation, that could be by sessions or product usage. So you want to think about how you can use messaging to guide users towards that goal. And then make sure you're using multiple channels to amplify your messaging. So again, this is going to give you the best odds at success. Another super common use case is around promotions and events. So the goal here being to drive engagement with a sale, an event, or a launch. And a method for doing that is publicizing the event and then sending a follow-up reminder. So in terms of a journey, I would recommend starting by creating a segment of users likely to be interested in this event. You always want your messaging to feel relevant, and journeys is no exception. So I'd recommend thinking through, okay, who are the users most likely to be interested? It could be all your active users or something a little bit more targeted. And then you want to send these folks an announcement message and then add a wait node. So this is an action we'll cover in the live demo, but you can add a wait node for an hour, a day, to space out your messaging. And then a yes/no branch. This is another awesome action you can use, which we'll cover in the demo, based on message engagement. So you're able to branch your sequences based on if users clicked or opened that announcement message. And then based off of that engagement behavior, send a reminder that aligns with their channel behavior. So what I mean by that is if your announcement message is an email and they did click that email, then maybe email is a good channel for that group of users. So send a reminder via email. But if they didn't engage with that announcement message, maybe email is not the right channel for them. So try reminding them via push. And last, but certainly not least, is re-engagement. So the goal here is often to win back users who have become inactive. And a method for doing that is communicating, a new feature or benefit of using your product that your customer can act on. So in journey form, this would look like setting your trigger criteria based on inactivity. Fortunately, Journeys makes that super easy. I'll show you in the product itself, but you can set an inactivity period for your trigger criteria. And then I'd also recommend setting exit criteria, specifically to have your users exit once they become active. And the thinking here is, of course, you want your messaging to feel relevant, and it might be confusing if someone becomes active if they're still receiving re-engagement messages. So after you've set those up, I would recommend starting with a message that recommends a new use case or feature to get them back into your product or website. And then add a wait node. I leave it to you to decide how long you want that wait node to be, but just to make sure we're spacing out our messaging. And then promote an incentive, maybe a little bit of a heavier hitter in terms of getting people back to your product or website. And now that we've covered kind of a framework and some use cases, I want to actually go through this process of planning and creating a journey together. So the scenario I've created is that I am a marketer for an online magazine called Webzine. And in terms of planning, the KPI for Webzine is conversion to paid. So a paid subscription gives users unlimited article views, and is also the key way that Webzine drives revenue. And a phase of the customer lifecycle that drives that objective is onboarding. So Webzine knows that if someone is going to convert to paid, they're most likely to do it in the first few days and probably even that first 24 hours. And so given that context, we're just going to focus on the first days after sign up. That's kind of the bite-sized chunk that I've chosen for today. And the goal that I want to guide users to is to sign up for a free trial and to upgrade. And in terms of designing a targeted cross-channel sequence, we're going to actually do that together live. So I'm going to escape from here and go to the product. So here we are in the journeys area, and I'm going to click a new journey. And welcome to the Journeys workspace. I'm going to give this journey a title. And set the trigger criteria. So as I mentioned for re-engagement, you can select this option here and set an inactivity period. Today I want it to be based on audience, on an audience segment. So I'm going to go to audience, click include segment, and subscribed users. So I only want to reach people who have said, yes, I want to hear from you. And I'm actually going to select future editions only because I only want people who are newly signing up and saying, yes, I want to hear from you to receive this onboarding journey. Because otherwise, if it's people who have been signed up for a while, it might not feel super relevant. And then I also want to flag that if you want to use journeys, it's super important that you have external user ID set up. Journeys are really about users and users moving across devices and channels. And so it's super important to have an external user ID that unites a user's devices together. And then in terms of exit rules, I want everyone in the journey to move through the entire journey, but you could have them exit when they become active. So again, that's really powerful for a re-engagement journey. And re-entry is another great feature. Again, today, I just want people to receive this once. But if I was creating a journey that could happen multiple times in a customer lifecycle, specifically an abandoned cart or re-engagement, it could be really powerful to have people qualify to re-enter after a certain period of time. But for today, they're just going to receive it once. And then I'm going to click save. And welcome to the workspace. So I just want to show that you can easily zoom in and out. I love that feature. And you get a nice at-a-glance view here. And to get started, you just click this plus button here. And so for my onboarding journey, I'm actually going to start with a wait node of 1 hour. And the thinking here is if someone has just signed up for WebZine, presumably they're in WebZine, and I don't want to distract their experience. I want them to explore on their own. But I also don't want to leave too much time because I want to make sure we're maintaining that engagement for that first 24-hour period. And after that hour, I'm going to send a welcome email. So here's what the email builder looks like in Journeys. And right now, Journeys leverages templates. And it's always best practice to create a new template specifically for a journey to ensure that analytics are accurate and not shared across instances of the template. In the interest of time today, I've gone ahead and created templates ahead of time, but I just wanted to highlight that you can easily just click create a new template here to do that. So I'm going to send a welcome email that welcomes them to WebZine and encourages them to try premium. Welcome emails are definitely a powerful tool in your kind of onboarding arsenal because they tend to perform really well. You know, customers increasingly expect to receive a welcome email, so they have really high engagement rates. And also because email is so much space to play with, it can be a really great kind of educational tool to kind of get people started in the right direction. And then I'm going to add another wait node because again, I don't want to be, bombarding people with too many messages too soon. And this time I'm going to have it be for 3 hours. And the thinking here is to, create some space, but not too much space because as I mentioned, WebZine knows that that first 24-hour period is a really precious time to get people to convert. But I want to get a little bit more sophisticated and personalized with the messaging I'm sending. So I'm going to add a yes/no branch. This is something that I mentioned in the use cases and is a really great feature. I highly recommend you incorporate it into your journeys. You can branch based off of message behavior or based on segment membership. And in this case, I'm going to segment based on if people have already converted to paid or not. Because that's my primary goal, I want to make sure that I'm not, sending people who have already converted to paid, oh, you should convert to paid. Or if they haven't converted to paid, to send them, premium messages. So if they haven't converted, I'm going to send them a push notification with a free trial code. And the reason why I'm sending a push is one, to start fostering that cross-channel seamless experience, and also to get them to try paid, hopefully with that free trial code. But if someone's already converted, I want to make sure that they're still having a great user experience. So I'm going to send them a push notification about the benefits of premium because I want them to be successful premium users. It's important to, take care of those folks as well. And then I'm going to add another wait node, again, just to make sure that the messaging is spaced out and to give folks a chance to engage with that push notification. So I'm actually going to have it be for 1 day to give a little bit more breathing room. And then I'm going to check in with these users again with a yes/no branch based on segment membership. And if folks still haven't converted to paid, I want to get a little bit more sophisticated with how I'm targeting them. So I'm going to add another yes/no branch, but this time based off of message behavior and specifically with that free trial message. I want to see if people clicked it or not. Because if they did click it, to me that signifies that, okay, this person is reading their push notifications, they're engaging with their push notifications. It's worthwhile to remind them via push. So I'm going to send a follow-up push notification to remind them that, it's not too late, you can still use this free trial code. But if they didn't engage with that free trial push notification, to me that signals, maybe push isn't the right channel to reach that group of users. So I'm going to try reminding them via email. So this is just an email that, again, reminds them about the free trial. And then on the other hand, again, you want to take care of the people who have, already accomplished the goal for the journey, which is to convert to paid. But I also want to be a little bit thoughtful because some of the users in this paid group probably, already received this push notification, but presumably there could be some users that, didn't receive that push notification. So I want to add an email with some to emphasize premium benefits. And then as I'm kind of taking a look through this, I'm realizing, these messages are maybe a little bit too close together. So I'm going to add a wait node here for 1 day to make sure that I'm spacing it out. And it's really easy to go back to adjust as you're kind of going through this creation process. And so those are actually the only messages I'm going to send for this journey, but I'm actually going to delete this wait node and I'm going to add a tag. So this is a really powerful tool for non-technical folks like myself to tag users via journeys. So in this case, I'm going to have welcome journey complete. And the thinking here is that I want to know if users have moved through this journey or not, because that's going to inform the messages I send them later in their life cycle. So for instance, if users have, were kind of older users and didn't go through this journey, I might tailor my messaging a little bit differently versus someone who has gone through this journey. And that's it. That's how you can create a journey in, a matter of minutes. If WebZine was a real company and I actually worked there, I'd probably update this trigger segment to my test group and have myself go through the journey or just set it live. For the purposes of today, I'm just going to save it and close and go back here. So now that we've kind of gone through creating a journey, I want to make sure that I emphasize a few best practices to keep in mind. So one is to think about how you can naturally accentuate your product experience and not interrupt it. So that's why I added that 1 hour wait node at the beginning, because I didn't want to take people out of the product experience when they're just getting started. Another is to make sure that you're combining channels, specifically email and push. This just gives you the best odds of reaching your users and guiding them to success. And finally, make sure you're leveraging segments, data tags, and actions to refine your targeting and to personalize your sequences. And I also want to make sure that I emphasize that there are a lot of exciting things coming to journeys as well. So the team is working on adding in-app to journeys. This is going to be huge because you'll be able to combine in-product and out-of-product messages together in a sequence. The team will also be working on adding SMS. This is a great channel, really high engagement rates, and it'll be nice to have in that mix as well. And then just some additional features and functionality, some functionality around scheduling and A/B test branching. And then I also want to make sure that I give a shout out to one of our Journeys power users, Eat Street. They've really taken up Journeys in replacement of blast campaigns, and they've seen some really awesome benefits. So I'll read their words because they say it best. We've been able to create more personalized and relevant journeys with an omni-channel approach that guides users at every stage in their customer lifecycle. We are starting to see the benefits with higher engagement and conversions across the board. So, we know the benefits of going cross-channel, and it's always really exciting to see users like Eat Street realize those benefits as well. And so that's actually all I have for today, but I want to make sure, let's see, yep, we have a few minutes left for any questions folks have around journeys and any best practices or anything else. So I will turn it over to you all. So yeah, great question. Can I A/B test my emails with OneSignal? So yes, you absolutely can. So for instance, you could try using our really intuitive email A/B test builder. You can set your audience, create up to 10 variants available for the pro and enterprise folks, or a more traditional A/B test for other folks, and then schedule your test all on the same page. So that data is really helpful for understanding what resonates with your audience, and that can really inform the journeys that you create. Really good question. Another question, for inactivity, how is that identified? Or are we able to track users inactive on website and or mobile app? So yeah, that's a great question. So I believe that inactivity is based on sessions. So it's tracked by, how long has it been since a user had a session. But I also recommend diving into our documentation. There are lots of really great details and also some best practices peppered in there around journeys and inactivity. Really good question. Have you seen user complaints when they receive too many emails or pushes? Yeah, so this is a really great question, and I believe we have a webinar on over messaging, which I highly recommend, because it's definitely possible to damage your customer experience if you're sending them too many messages, and in fact, it can lead folks to unsubscribe from your messaging. So I highly recommend, if you're using Journeys, to leverage wait nodes to make sure that you're spacing out your messaging so that it feels relevant, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. Really important to be mindful about spacing out your messaging for sure. Is there any WordPress integration out of the box for this omni-channel journey? So our WordPress integration is very, very popular and something we definitely care a lot about. Right now, you can't, toggle or edit the WordPress integration directly from the Journeys space. But if you have a specific use case in mind, I would highly recommend reaching out to our awesome support team because they are super creative and good at kind of thinking through a more specific use case around that. Is it possible to unsubscribe to specific journeys? We have the problem that users unsubscribe to a specific email notification, which resulted in being unsubscribed to all notifications. That is a really good question. So right now, I don't believe there is a way to unsubscribe from specific journeys. That's not part of our current offering. But I think it's, I imagine this is in regards to a marketing use case instead of a transactional use case. So I think in terms of this question, it's just really important to be thoughtful about the emails you are sending, because if someone doesn't want to, receive that kind of email in future, then they will be unsubscribed from your email marketing. What does reporting look like? Okay, great question. So after you set a journey live, you actually get some nice at a glance analytics of the journey. So specifically, for instance, like for a push notification, you get information about how many have been sent and how many have been clicked. For an email, you get information about how many have been sent and how many have been opened. And then for some of the actions, you get information about how many folks have started that step, have exited that step, And you also get some kind of exit early information as well, because like, for instance, if you're doing a re-engagement journey and you want folks to exit if they're active, you can get that information in the journey as well at a glance, which is really great. Yeah, so do we have a way of knowing if users subscribe to receiving push notifications when they downloaded our app? Yeah, so if you prompt people to subscribe to your push notifications and they click, they allow that, then you should have that information for that user already in the OneSignal system. Let's see here, maybe one more question. I want to be mindful of folks' time. Are journeys available for all OneSignal users? Okay, so presently journeys are available for our professional and enterprise customers. If you're interested in learning more about journeys, I would highly recommend contacting our sales team at sales@onesignal.com. And that's actually, I think, a great way to end, because I also want to give a shout out to our awesome support team. If you have any, use case questions, I highly recommend reaching out to them. And yeah, I really appreciate everyone joining today. I really hope this has given you some ideas of how you can kind of kickstart your journey, so to speak. And thanks so much for joining.